I had a backpack and my brother was going to NAU, and I came to see him from Southern California. I'd been traveling for about a year or two in Mexico and New York and places. And found some old high school friends, went hiking in the Grand Canyon, and just basically got stuck here. As a kid growing up, I really liked messing with bikes. It was something, I had the old one-speed coaster brake bikes in those days, and my mom would take me down to the West Auto Store, and they actually had a great parts inventory then. They had small pieces for those coaster brakes, and they had tires and tubes and all that stuff. So and bike parts were cheap, so she'd buy me bike parts, and they would be strewn all over the garage floor. But I really, like bicycles. I think it's kind of one of those signature moments in any child's life when they, they learn how to crawl, they run around the house, and then they run around the yard, and then all of a sudden they get this bicycle, and they have to ride in front. But one of those days they break free and they go ride 3 or 4 blocks away, and their whole world expands. In '72, I was working for Eagley Sportsman. He said, I want you just to give these used bikes a lick and a promise, and make sure they can run, and we'll donate them to charity or something. He said, but don't spend a lot of time on them. And so I was so excited to be working in a bike shop, and I remember it was a 3-speed bike, and I just couldn't help myself. I completely dismantled this bicycle. And Scott came back to check on me, and it was kind of like a kid with his hand in a cookie jar. And he says, so I thought I told you. He says, oh, Elson, he says, I should just fire you right now. And I said, oh, because I really like, when I was, it's only early on, but I knew I really liked doing that. So I borrowed a little bit of money and opened a garage bike shop up on Beaver Street. And there was a large bike boom that year. There was also an energy crisis. There were lines at the gas station, and all this, falderall about transportation and gas. And so that was the big international bike boom. All of a sudden, the 10-speed bike became really popular. And so anybody who opened a bike shop that year was probably guaranteed some success. And mountain bikes came along, and that was about '82, '83, and that was really the beginning of my success story as far as being a small businessman goes. The closest bike shop to campus, mountain biking just took off, and I remember, we were selling 30 bikes a year, and then we sold 100 bikes a year, and then we sold 300 bikes a year, and then we sold 600 bikes a year. Started going to traffic commission meetings saying, hey, we'd like some bike lanes. We answered all the questions and found roads that would be suitable. And I remember the last argument that the traffic commissioner, the traffic engineer had, he says, Elson, he says, that paint is expensive. It has a reflective material. It's very expensive paint. We really can't afford to put a stripe on the road. Then I remember when we dedicated the South Beaver Street bike lane, all the city council came out, and they had found bicycles, and there was an entourage of whatever, the mayor and the 6 councilmen were riding down South Beaver Street. There's a feel-good part of taking old bikes and bringing them back to life and stuff like that, of keeping stuff out of the landfill. When people ask me about things, yeah, that's not that important to me, but I guess on some level it is, especially if I've had a nice old bike that has a lot of characters left to it. It's nice to bring those back to life. So. I have not been that dynamic a leader by any stretch of the imagination. If anything, it's longevity more than anything else, that I've been around doing it for a long time, and I've been relatively consistent over the years that I've kept doing it. And as far as all the plaques and stuff, it's probably more that I'm generous to a fault as far as helping people out, and I think that's where the recognition comes from. It's not that I've been, charging around waving a flag and stuff like that. I've just sort of been friend to the cyclist.